kids are very dynamic in nature and are more unpredictable than adults, which is typically why kids with ASD prefer adults, because they're more accommodating and overcompensate and know when enough is enough, or kids don't necessarily know that. But on a day-to-day stuff, just make sure if you're going to set up, like frame out some sort of activity, run it through with the child on the spectrum first and then bring the other child in, so that they're feeling a little bit more confident and it's not completely uncertain. Make them do it together as a team. So instead of having them compete against one another, have them do it together as a team. But I mean, in general, parents that are in the program, I encourage them to kind of make some alone time first, because there are so many foundations that need to be in place for them to be able to really understand and coordinate and interact with siblings and peers that can only really be taught by you as parents. So. Good. Make them do things together as a team. That would be the first thing that I would suggest. So instead of having a 4-person game, make it 2 teams of 2. Have like 3-legged races, or hot potato, or something where where there's no like competition or task necessarily. Just a balloon game of volleyball, or a game of balloon volleyball, where they're on the same side. Off the top of my head. Sorry, go ahead.
Some of the children in these videos appear to be better than the others. Some were much more interactive and to understand. So in your role as a consultant, do you have to first assess the child and see where to begin with them in terms of communication skills, because some of them could respond much faster than the others may not even understand.
Right.
As I said, maybe they don't understand the vocabulary or the words or the concepts.
We always start with education, so parents are always educated on a lot of the stuff that we talked about tonight. Then there's a whole parent readiness piece where we look at your whole family. You look at how much time, where is your quality time? Is your time spent constantly shuffling from therapy to therapy, from school to therapy? How much time are you allotting to actually restore your participation relationship? And then what we do is a baseline measurement, where I'm not necessarily looking at the child, I'm looking at the guided participation relationship. I'm looking at parents and children. So if the parents change their behavior, how can this child learn and grow in a better, more productive way? Certainly the kids come out in different places, with different deficits and different goals that we focus on first. Every family is different. Some families aren't necessarily capable of doing some things right away. So it is very individualized and it's different for every family. But I look more at the unit, not necessarily the child.
So how long does it take for you to sort of get going after the assessment? Many visits, many months, or?
The initial parent education and parent readiness, just getting you kind of acclimated to the program and the logistics of it, usually takes like 4 to 6 months. Where parents come in to meet with me once a week or once every other week, and they're sent home with assignments to do with the kids. So they're changing the way they're communicating. They're doing a lot of the things that we talked about here. They're looking at their schedule. They're making necessary modifications. They're incorporating the child into setting the table instead of shuffling them off to play on the computer. Mommy needs to set the table and make dinner. We're going to get that kid in there and doing that with you, because there are tons and tons of opportunities.
In general, is school more of a static, a little bit more static and almost dynamic, so they find a school and then they come home?
Yeah. School is generally, the focus is certainly on static things. So if you have a kid that's confident in static things and feels comfortable there, and that's where, where his or her element is, then they're going to feel more confident in school, sure. And then home, it's not as structured, and that's where, and that's where the dynamic work should be taking place too. Because, again, it's typical development. So think about a 0 to 12-month-old. They're learning all of these things at home with their parents. So that's why no matter what age, if you're 10, 11, 12, 62, we need to relearn those things. Those things are missing. We need to relearn them in order to get back on developmental track.
Can you tell us more about this?
Sure. What I did for parents, it's a 6-week session, and it just goes through the first stage of parent education. So it just gives you kind of a taste of the program without making the full commitment of the contract, of like a 6-month contract, just so you make sure it's right for your family and that you're able to put in your time. Yeah, once a week. Once a week for 6 weeks.
Who runs this two-day program?
That is Dr. Gustine, who developed RDI, will be in New York March 12th and 13th. The flyer's in there. Pretty sure it's a Friday and a Saturday. Price goes up February 1st, so if you're interested, just make sure you take a look at it. And he'll just be presenting his research, current research that's out there, and a much more in-depth, obviously 16 hours long look at the program, and we can into ours. Where it's going, he's brilliant and wonderful to listen to. Go ahead.
Can you give me some advice on a rigid child who tells you what you're supposed to be doing and wants to play the game the same way every time?
What do you do?
Well, I do something different.
Good. That's what I would tell you to do. Has flexibility in other realms.
Well, I mean, it was interesting when you said, like, the girl who would have had a meltdown if the first time around, if the mom served herself first. I mean, my child isn't that bad, but just I don't know, it's just very hyper about, being first, being the best, and I'm always like, so what?
What if you take materials away?
It depends what it is.
What can you do with him, just the two of you, without any materials?
What can we do just to do it?
That'll alleviate some of it. Start thinking about that. It'll alleviate some of that task anxiety. That like, no, I need to do it this way because this is how we do it, because these are the rules. And
I know part of it's part of me.
well, and that's why this is a nice program because it teaches you to change your behavior so that you're better equipped to deal with those kinds of things. It's a flexibility issue. Changes routine. Get rid of the fixed schedule.
Right, yeah.
Because the underlying problem is flexibility. It's not necessarily that he needs to play that specific game that specific way. It's because he's inflexible. So you can work on flexibility in many, many different ways. It doesn't always have to be just the game. But I would just try to do things with no task, no winner lose, no end product.
What about when children who are attached to an object? They find something and they...
Same thing? Or
No,
something
it's something, holding it. The next day it could be something else.
Initially, I would probably tell you to not address it directly. It's a coping mechanism, probably for like an uncertainty, anxiety, incompetence kind of thing. Once he or she's feeling a little bit more confident and sees the value in people as opposed to objects, it will likely be gone anyway. I wouldn't address it directly right away. No, I would teach you how to establish co-regulation, establish coordination with her so that she sees the value in interacting with people, that you're more valuable. And if she can't do it because she's holding on to it, you want to see her like the wet sock. Okay, do I need to pay attention here or do I need to pay attention here? What's more important? And then let her make that choice. And how much more valuable when she makes that choice on her own as opposed to you just taking it away and she's